Greetings and welcome to Pop's Collection, where we dissect and reflect on a movie or TV show from my Pop's Collection. I'm Ron Tweedy, joining me is Pops, and today we're going to be talking about V for Vendetta.
Hello, everybody. Welcome again. Our third in a row, R-rated movie, our comic book, as we would say.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's a good thing, you know? V for Vendetta, what a movie. I had forgotten how much I liked this movie.
Okay.
A very, very interesting and almost prophetic, kind of, in a way. What do you think about that thought?
Yeah, it is interesting. Like you said, and I think we talked about this a little bit when we reviewed 300 as well. That hit a little bit differently today versus when we first watched it. And same thing with this one. And then I went back and read the entire 10-issue graphic novel.
The one from 88?
Yeah. And it is, in some ways, it's very much the same. There are certain scenes that are pretty much verbatim. But then I think from an underlying message and standpoint, it is radically different.
Oh, the movie compared to the graphic novel. Yes, definitely. So much so too. Alan Moore, the writer of this, he had two of his other films. In 2001, he had From Hell, done into a movie, and in 2003, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Okay.
And they did what he thought was a chop job, that he refused to watch this movie, and he also asked not to be credited and not to get any royalties from it. So I mean, I really enjoyed the movie, even though it was somewhat different. It did have some of the scenes in there you could tell from the comics that, directly from the comic itself.
Right.
Well, the comic actually started before then.
Yeah.
It was in the UK's anthology Warrior. It was done in black and white, and it was kind of done like a cliffhanger serial.
Yeah, in
originally.
Fact, I'll show you. I'll share my screen so we can look at a couple of pages. This is from, I guess, when DC it got moved to the online portal, but you could see that it definitely was in black and white originally. The colors are very muted in a lot of these, and I just picked the scene where Evie gets put into what she thinks is prison. And you could see that, very similar to the movie. She gets her hair cut off and everything. She's in the cell. She finds the note. She reads the note. She's tortured. You get the flashback and everything from Valerie's story. And, very much, and almost like literally line for line, it is like the same as the film. And then obviously at the very end, when she realizes that nobody's there, you get the mannequin there as well.
Yes.
Yeah. And then you also have, there's sequences of things being lined up, and you got the dominoes being stacked at each of the lines there. You can see it makes a big V there. So yeah.
Which I thought that was really breathtaking in the movie.
Yeah. I think so.
That was really, really cool.
Yeah.
That had to be part of their budget, definitely. The movie actually did really, really well.
Yeah.
In the theaters. I didn't check to see what the video sales were, but I got to assume that it was very good. Actually had 3 release dates.
Okay.
Warner originally wanted to release it on November 4th. In 2005,
right,
the day just before Fox
Guy Fawkes
Day, or well, it had a few different names. Gunfire Plot, I
Right.
think it was called.
Well, that's the historical thing. So, yeah, I guess if you want to talk about it, we could talk about it. I think it is an interesting story, at least.
Well, it kind of puts a little different spin on that part, the Guy Fawkes Day,
Hmm.
uh, being that he was part of a underground Catholic group that
Right.
wanted to assassinate um, who was it, James the First, or
Yeah, King James, the same King James who authorized the translation of the Bible that we know and love today. So yeah, that was the guy they were trying to kill because he was a Protestant, and like you said,
right,
it was
not
a
Catholic,
right.
right? They wanted to keep
They wanted Mary to be queen, and because of that, they plotted to destroy Parliament, and obviously, the plan was thwarted, and ever since then, England has had a celebration for this holiday. So Guy Fawkes himself was not a good guy. He was a bad guy. He was an extremist, and they celebrated the fact that he was thwarted. And to borrow a phrase from the film, England prevailed. You know.
yes, that's true. Which I thought it was really kind of interesting that it makes the story interesting to the point that this hero is basically looked at as a terrorist,
Yeah.
in this film.
Hmm.
But depending upon your point of view, not so much.
Hmm.
You know, you could, argue either way, depending upon what side of the fascist regime you choose to fall.
Yeah, I think I don't know who said it, but one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter, right?
Yes, yes,
History is replete with examples like that. For instance, back when Afghanistan was under Soviet control, we helped out a lot. A man named Osama bin Laden overthrow the Soviets, and that kind of went sideways, as history would tell us. So, you know,
yes. Well, we kind of got something like that in the story. Um, if you recall that the party, what is it called? The bonfire party? Bonfire, uh, something, what was it called? Oh my gosh. Oh, Norse Fire Party
yeah,
was that their fascist regime
right.
that they basically manipulated the disease and then had the cure for the disease. How a little
It's worse.
prophetic there.
No, it's worse than that because there are lines in the film and in the book on how the disease came from America, and it was America's fault, and they're even more in shambles than Britain is. I mean, they were not even calling the United States anymore because the country's so fragmented because of the disease. We don't know exactly what happened to America, but the exposition lines tell us that it does not go well, and the disease came from America, which you know much reminds you of something else that a disease that America definitely had involvement in, and things getting out and out of hand, and changing the world. So
Right. The storyline was, I guess, that America had another civil war,
yeah, exactly.
and they're blaming it on the Americans. But the story we kind of get
Yeah.
as it unfolds that really it was the what's he called, the Prime Chancellor,
Hmm.
Sutler,
Right.
that he somehow was actually, and his company was involved in developing that
And the cure.
uh, and the cure.
Right.
Yeah, so profiting at both ends.
Yeah. Yeah. Kind of like another
Yes,
multi-billion-dollar corporation that shall remain nameless.
yes. But it's kind of as the story unfolds, we what I liked about the movie itself
Yeah.
is that they did kind of develop the story to where when we got to the final end
Mm-hmm.
that we kind of knew everything. And it started out the V could have been V for vengeance, it
Yeah.
could have,
Well, vendetta is kind of a similar term. So.
Yeah, true that. Yeah, maybe it's the British way of doing it, but Alan Moore is really, he's something else, man.
Yeah, like I said before, I'm not a fan normally of his stuff. In fact, if you probably saw the pages that I showed, I mean, the way he writes, it's like a wall of text every panel.
Yes.
Um,
Oh yes, definitely.
it's so funny because the guys who wrote those Punisher, not the Max one, but the one before it, the one from the 2000s, it's exact opposite. It's super easy to read. There's not a ton of text, and the stories flow so much better. So that's just not my cup of tea. And when it comes to
I agree.
his philosophical and political leanings, I find them both abhorrent. In fact, that was actually the biggest difference, I think, between the two stories, is that V explicitly is an anarchist, and his goal is to make the entire institutions, he wants to raise them to the ground. And from there, he thinks that people will be able just to figure out, to build a new thing. And he constantly, goes by the mantra, do what thou willst, which is taken directly from Anton LaVey's, he's from the Church of Satan and everything. So it's pretty dark stuff. And the film makes no
none whatsoever,
mess, no,
right?
yeah, and it's almost like, to me, that they pretty much, the Wachowskis who did this film, they pretty much recasted the story. Instead of it being anarchism versus fascism, to liberalism and neoconservatism. Remember that when this movie came out, it was during the second term of George W. Bush, and he was a pretty popular punching bag for everybody in the media. Some of that rightfully so, but in other ways, it's kind of like boring to me. Like, I get it, you don't like him, and you build up a straw man of what he represents and whatnot, and I don't find any of that stuff compelling at all. And so, the idea that the Northfire Party, that it to me, it's like the most absurd thing that I can think of, that a major political party in Britain would get to power, and then they would, excise all of the Arabs and homosexuals. I mean, it's the exact opposite happening right now. It's like,
exactly.
Come on
yes.
in, and as perverse you can be, go for it. We'll celebrate you. And so to me, it's like that's the prophetic part they got completely wrong. The other stuff they got completely right. This was completely wrong.
Yes.
So.
Well, I mean, the churches in England are dying.
Yeah,
they're dying out.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. The Church of England is by far, I think, in my opinion, is the most liberal and compromised church in the Western world. Probably, I would have to, definitely one of them. A lot of the Western European state churches are like that now. It's a complete, they don't have they have no fealty to the scriptures at all. And so, to me, thinking that they're going to have this authoritarian thing where they're going to, criminally punish people who stray from biblical moral values. No, that's not going to happen.
That's not going to happen now. They'll embrace it if you are going far, to the left,
right? Yeah. So it's like, yeah, that to me, they couldn't have gotten more wrong. I get it. And then the other thing you have to remember is that when Alan Moore wrote this, it was the height of Margaret Thatcher and the conservative resurgence.
Yes,
Britain. So he was writing against that, which I kind of get, but I kind of don't, because number one, I was way too young, and number two, I was way too far away to really get what was going on there. We had a similar situation with the Reagan Revolution, but You know, I could never see, uh, you know, our society going that way at all. Reagan was not that kind of president. He was definitely way more
No.
magnanimous, and you know, I think almost to a fault. Sometimes he was way too, he played way too loosely with the liberals and let them run amok. So anyway,
Right, which is, he chose Alan Moore to write America as, again, the bad guy in
yeah,
this.
yeah,
What I thought was interesting was when they chose to bring in Lark Hill
yes, yeah,
and the stuff that they did there,
right,
and him actually being patient number 5, but
mm,
Roman numeral, so that's where the V
yeah,
comes from, of course. But of course, he was the one that didn't die.
yeah.
So I don't know what he was, but I do have to say that the cast of actors that portrayed the characters in this movie, I think that they made an excellent choice uh, with everybody. I'm not sure. I read somewhere that James Purefoy actually was V in the beginning,
Okay,
but he left after 6 weeks, so that's when they got Hugo Weaving to do it, and he redubbed all of the scenes that
yeah,
Purefoy did.
okay,
I thought that he did a great job,
yeah,
especially not being able to show his face with the mask, to be able to act as he did.
yeah.
It was an incredibly good performance by him and Natalie Portman, of course.
Well,
Uh, you know,
I agree that Hugo Weaving, I think it's probably one of his best roles that he's ever done. You know, this is a man. Actually, I think he's got a lot of range to him. You know, you have someone who he plays a, you know, high elf in Lord of the Rings, and he plays a Nazi psychomaniac in Captain America, and you got him playing this, you know, dangerous but very plain and milquetoast agent in the Matrix. So I mean, he's and you have him in this one, like you said. The fact is that when it comes to his acting style in this one, he has to be able to communicate more through pantomime
yes,
than he does, you know, anything else. And you know, you believe it when he's there.
absolutely.
But I'll
You,
disagree with you on Natalie Portman though, because
oh, come on,
that
really?
accent is not good. Not a good accent. I'm just saying her accent work needs a lot of work.
Well, as far as her acting ability for the character,
Oh sure.
I'm going to say that she did it real well.
Yeah, I
Uh,
agree with that. I don't disagree with that part, but yeah, it took me out
the
of the movie.
accent,
Yeah,
well, hey, you can't let one little thing spoil it for you, you know?
yeah.
Gordon Dietrich, another good character.
Also very different from the comic.
Yes,
Completely different.
yes. And there was the homage there to Benny Hill.
Yeah, yeah,
Did you catch that?
yeah. That was cute.
I thought it was really good. And of course, it got him killed in the end, but
Yeah, yeah. In the in the comic book, he's you know, straight. He actually has a relationship with Evie in it. So you know, and the whole
right,
subplot
that
about him.
totally went in
Yeah,
a far out direction.
it goes back to, I think that they're the Wachowskis trying to frame it in a different way politically. I think that was intentional on their part, and the fact that, you know, he was caught with the Quran,
Yes,
that was not at all in the original book either. So
right. And he, Evie asks him, "Oh, you're Muslim?" "No, I'm not, but it's a beautiful book." Really? Okay.
yeah,
All
yeah.
right.
That's the other thing that gets me, is that, like, you know, if it for a gay man to say that's a beautiful book, where people who follow that book punish people like him by throwing them off a rooftop
Yes.
seems kind of incoherent to me. Just throwing that out there.
You know, hey, you're right. You're definitely right. John Hurt as Sutler did a great job. Actually, everybody did their part so well. I feel like that the movie just sucked you into that point where you were like, you couldn't wait to see what's next or to learn what was going to happen next, you know?
You know, I kind of had a different opinion about that. I agree that it does suck you in, and the performances do help with that. It brings you into that world. But for me, it gave me a different thought. Like, I didn't want to know what happens next. I did not want to be there, you know, because it was so depressing. It was so, you could feel, you know, like the big brother always watching and stuff like that. And, you know, to me, you know, because of the world that we live in today, it is more unsettling today. So.
Yes, I would agree with that. Your mom and I are actually, our latest show that we're watching was a USA thing. It's called Colony. And it's actually quite similar to this, except instead of it being fascist, it's aliens. There was like an alien takeover, but it's the same thing. They're allowing people to run the colonies, the different colonies, but it's got to be their way or, you know, you're dead.
Right.
You know, like the officers, you know, for the regime, you know, hitting somebody with the back of their gun, not caring, you know, if you're not going to do it our way, we're taking you. Right. So yeah, it is very depressing. Right. No question about that.
Yeah.
But like I said, I do find the story itself an interesting story, you know, learning that this is how they decided to take over the government.
Right.
By the St. Mary's incident and the virus, you know, and putting it in the water. You know, so it's like, okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But of course, we have that today, too. There's people that feel that it was premeditated, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I think we should leave it at that.
Yes. Well, you know, I'm just saying it's a thought that some people have. And we really have no idea either way. And
no, we have a pretty good idea. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Well, I'm just hoping that we don't get into our second civil war and the UK has to take over again. You know, not going to happen, right?
Well, they didn't really take over. The story itself is just centered around Britain.
Right.
England more specifically, and they had nothing to do with the States. You know, it was just they're doing their thing over there. So, no, the people we should be worried about now is China.
Oh yes.
So.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. Anyway.
Well, hey, I don't think we need to go there, or we'll try not to go there. So, how did you feel the flow of the story went?
Oh, it went well. Yeah, it's definitely good. You know, didn't think it was too long. Didn't seem too long to me.
Now it was a little over 2 hours, but
well, there's so much going on, and they spend a lot of time in the past. They spend a lot of time on Valerie's story. So, you know, that helped kind of break it up. And, you know, V's monologues are entertaining because he uses a lot of alliteration.
Shakespeare and...
Yeah, a lot of alliteration, too. A lot of V words that he uses. So that's fun. So,
Yeah,
so
it
yeah,
is actually very, very good.
yeah,
And just I guess the way that he, uh, you know, portrayed the character and his monologues and everything were just so kind of flowing
hmm
that I think it helped everything go smoothly. I mean, let's face it, that was very graphic at points,
hmm yeah,
but I think that they even things out because this book was the graphic novel was a lot of dialogue,
oh
like
yeah,
we had already said.
yeah,
So, and they did have some places in there where it was heavy dialogue and not so much action.
yeah,
And, but they were able to move those things and intermingle them to whereas the whole movie flowed. I felt like I was struggling with it. It's a movie that you could definitely watch again,
hmm
but I was trying to decide whether I wanted to do that same in the same week, watch
yeah,
it and then watch it again.
right,
So I do feel that it is watchable, rewatchable, um, but um, it, like you said, it's very depressing,
yep,
So I don't know if I want to get that way, um, in the same week,
sure,
maybe 6 months or a year later, maybe, I don't know. But
right, right,
I, because of that, and because of Alan Moore's rejection of that,
yeah.
I almost want us to do From Hell or League of Extraordinary Gentlemen just to,
Well, he didn't.
see
He didn't like
how
the way
bad that is.
those. Yeah, they didn't like the way those turned out, as
No,
well.
he didn't like. That's why he refused to be
Yeah. Okay.
even a part of this. You
Yeah.
know.
Well, I did see From Hell a long time ago, like
Yeah, me
when it
too.
when it first came out, and it was, I don't remember it being bad per se, um, but I don't remember it, so that tells you something. I actually,
Right, right. Well, it's a
well, it's Jack the Ripper. I know it's a story about
yeah,
Jack the Ripper,
yes,
so
right, and um, it had good acting in it, as I recall.
right.
But yeah, it wasn't all that memorable for me.
Right.
But the fact that he thought it was so trash compared to his graphic novels,
Yeah. Which is
I'd be
yeah.
interested in going back and reading the graphic novel and then, reviewing it,
Right.
as a movie or League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, either one.
Yeah.
I mean, they were both, um, as far as I can remember,
Yeah.
middle of the road movies,
Okay.
not something that you'd say, other than Sean Connery was in the league. So,
Right. 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 That's right.
I enjoyed him.
Yeah.
He's always a good actor. So, at least most of the time, I would say.
Well, you've never seen Zardoz, I don't think, then, huh?
Yes. Oh, you know what? I have, but you're
That
right.
that movie's really bad.
That's terrible. I'm that's something that you remember that. I actually remember I'm old enough to know that I saw that in a movie theater. And I can remember leaving that when the movie was over and saying, "What?
Yeah.
That was it?"
Yep. So anyway,
Oh my gosh! Now that I remember that,
so do you know if he had anything to do with Watchmen? Because he wrote Watchmen when the movie that came out.
I didn't really. I knew that he wrote it, but I didn't know how he felt about it. Now that was a very long movie. I think that was over 3 hours.
Right, and then they did a series on HBO Max, which, by the way, they did say that in 2017 it was in development for a V for Vendetta adaptation as well. But obviously that's 5 years ago, so
Yes,
I don't
yes.
think anything
Well,
happened to it.
That I don't know. Did you watch the Watchmen series on it? I purchased it and I did watch it.
Yeah.
Um, I liked the movie adaptation better.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, that's what I heard is that they kind of also reframed a lot of the politics and stuff like that to meet their current agenda as opposed to what Alan Moore was trying to write.
right, correct, correct.
So
So yeah, it's I'm glad it was only a one season HBO thing, The
yeah,
Watchmen,
okay,
definitely. So yes, not good. I'm not even going to go there. But
okay.
yeah, I would be interested to, I'm going to look into that and maybe we'll discuss that at another time. I'm not suggesting we do Watchmen,
Yeah, we're
but
not doing that now. At least
you know,
I can only take so
that's
much Alan Moore.
yes, exactly. Well, again, this was a good story. I like the homage to Benny Hill.
Yeah,
I liked Hugo Weaving, definitely. Actually, like I said, everybody's that portrayed Stephen Ray actually as the detective,
right,
chief inspector in
right,
this case,
right.
was did a very good job also.
Agreed.
So I can't really think of anybody that didn't play their part, to a
Yeah,
non-believable, like, oh, there's no way this character was like that type of thing.
right.
But there again, too, I would like to really know how Alan Moore felt about it, but
Sure.
like you said, they went in a different direction than what he wanted them to.
Yeah.
All right. So, anything else you want to talk about?
Yeah, I think. Well, I do want to speak. I think a little bit more to the the book or the original story because I think that there's actually some really stark contrast between the Christian worldview and what Alan Moore thinks about both society and institutions. I think it's helpful for us to kind of talk through that. So the first thing is that, like I said earlier, is that do what thou will. That's the motto of V in the book, and it just reminds me of the common refrain in the book of Judges that every man did what was right in their own eyes, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh,
So,
yes.
and obviously that was part of God's judgment to those people. And so, a society without institutions, particularly the civil magistrate, which is what V was trying to destroy, is a society under God's judgment. God puts civil magistrates over us for to be his deacon, as Romans 13 says, his servant. They're supposed to execute justice for us, so we don't have to do it on our own. And he's there to reward the good and punish the guilty. And so, destroying that is destroying something that God has set up. And so, I would say you can't really get anarchism and be consistently Christian and an anarchist at the same time. Doesn't mean that the current institutions are okay. Actually, I'd say the exact opposite. That now is the time for us to start building those parallel institutions. So when the other institutions end up crumbling because they can't sustain themselves, we'll have new institutions to take their place.
Solid
Yeah,
institutions that are
yeah,
ruled the way that God
yeah.
wants us to be ruled.
So that's kind of the main story. I think that's the thing we could take away from. This is what we can learn from the story by inferring the exact opposite of what Alan Moore wants us to learn.
Right.
So
And in the movie,
yeah,
V's whole thing was that this institution is wrong, and he's believing that chaos will, after chaos ensues, that the government will straighten itself out.
Right. Yeah.
you know,
The movie itself, you know, they kill off, you know, the leader.
and the second in command.
Right. But the idea was that you know, that there was still going to be people in place to kind of to pick it up, people with the right worldview. So it's like, I don't know. To me, it's like there wasn't really an anarchist bent in the film. It was more, like I said, it was more about right versus left, and you know, this is what happens when the right goes, you know, extreme, and that needs to be, you know, taken down. Like I said, the way things are now, there is no threat from the right. I'm just saying that.
No, no, that's the truth. There needs to be, but you
Well,
know,
I would prefer neither. Would be great if we could just, you know, like I said,
get
have
along.
right. Well, it's not just that, but it's also, you know, we need to have a prophetic voice to call people back to God's law. It's the best. So
Well, there are a lot of voices out there. Just
yeah.
we need everybody to listen.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and you know, can't just talk. There's people that need to be making steps too.
Yeah.
And I hope that that could happen.
Sure.
You know. Okay.
But that's it. That's all I have to say.
All right. Well, that's plenty, I think. You know.
Yep.
Other than we have to do a rating.
Right.
Uh, and I'll go first. I'll be happy to go first.
Thank you.
Um, for the story and the content itself, I'm going to give it a 7.5. I love the actors and I love the job that they did.
Yeah.
Actually felt that some of the action scenes were done real well. The blood, on the other hand, was like way over the top. But 7.5, it's better than average, a lot better than average, but not totally great, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think sevens for me would be the way I'd go. Give it a straight 7. Like you said, same reasons. You know, don't disagree with any of that. So.
Well, good.
Yeah.
Then the only other thing is try to decide what we're going to do next week, huh?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I have some ideas. Hope you do.
Okay.
Are we
yeah.
going to go for 4R rated in a row? Will we make it a PG-13? Will we make it a G? I say listen and find out, right?
Yeah, that sounds great. So yeah, let's
right.
let's close it up there. Thank you for listening this week, and we'll see you next week with something brand new. So until then, goodbye. God bless.
Goodbye. God bless. Tell your friends.